House Democrats holding a closed-door meeting today for the first time since former special counsel Robert Mueller gave his statement last week. He sparked more calls to begin impeachment proceedings against President Trump. This comes as the House Judiciary Committee announces it will hold a hearing next week with former White House counsel to President Richard Nixon, John Dean. He was a key figure in the Watergate scandal. It is reportedly part of a new strategy to highlight the Mueller report. But the divide over impeachment is still front and center. House Judiciary Democrat Val Demings says her priority is not impeachment.
I did not come to Congress to impeach a president, but I did come to Congress to do my job. And we have an obligation to make sure that the American people have as much information as possible, protect the Constitution, and uphold our democracy.
But still, the number of Dems publicly calling for impeachment now tops 50. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on whether House Speaker Pelosi should comply.
I think that the tide is turning with the public and seeing exactly what is going on, with the president advising witnesses to ignore legally binding subpoenas. At this point, it is getting to become so overwhelming that we need to uphold the rule of law and the Constitution of the United States.
So, Jessica, they're going to pull out the Wayback Machine and bring somebody from the Nixon administration out to talk. Do you think that she's right, though? I mean, the 50 is a lot more than it was previously 20, I think, right? Do you think the tide is turning for public opinion, and do you think that having these kind of hearings would make a difference?
The polling isn't reflecting that the tide is turning whatsoever. People are still exactly where they were, which they think that there was obstruction of justice, they think that the president lied, and they're not for impeachment. So Val Demings is absolutely correct. This is what you say on the couch almost every day. Politicians are sent to Washington to get things done. Congressional oversight is part of that job. They should be able to do it. Where AOC is correct, and we just saw today that Hope Hicks now is not going to be complying with her subpoena. You have Dalton McGahn saying he's not going to comply with his subpoena. That if you have the White House ordering people to not let Congress do their job, you get increased pressure on Nancy Pelosi and, frankly, on Congress overall to see if we go down the path of the impeachment inquiry. What Nancy Pelosi said, why is it ridiculous?
The whole thing is ridiculous because this is not oversight. This is trying to overturn an election. That's what this is about. It is ridiculous. As the Wall Street Journal very effectively put it the other day, when they say, what are they going to impeach him for? They want to impeach him. Hang on a second. They want to impeach him for obstructing an investigation into a conspiracy that didn't exist when there wasn't. And the investigation happened. It wasn't obstructed. What they actually are pointing to are examples.
Why did Bob Mueller say
hang on a second. What they're pointing to, Bob Mueller lied from the podium because he had to be corrected later that day. He lied about what he found because what he actually found
in plain English.
was no, it wasn't plain, and it had to be corrected later in the day.
Really, what
he lied directly because there is the conflict between what he said, which was that he implied that the only reason he didn't charge the president was because of the OLC opinion, and that conflicted with what the Attorney General said later that same day.
Do you think maybe Bill Barr lied?
No, because there is no evidence of any criminality. What they're pointing to...
There are hundreds of prosecutors that have said that if there were anyone but the president, he would be indicted.
What they're pointing to are examples of the president losing his temper. Wouldn't you lose your temper if your entire administration is being derailed by a manufacturer?
And ordering your lawyer to obstruct justice are very different.
It is not illegal.
I think I'm going to pause it. I'm going to pause it right here. And I'm going to ask, I think the point of what the Wall Street Journal was writing in part was when you hear Nancy Pelosi say the president is engaged in a cover-up, the logical question becomes, what is he covering up? And I don't think Democrats have an answer to what is he covering up.
Well, I read that same Wall Street Journal editorial, and the point they made, no investigation was obstructed. The Mueller investigation went on, and it ended. The counterintelligence investigation by the FBI was not obstructed. No witnesses were interfered with. 2 years, 500 search warrants. And anybody was interviewed that Mueller wanted to interview, and even President Trump himself answered questions of that. Instead of John Dean, they need to hire, like, I don't know, Kevin Spacey. He could read it in the Francis Underwood voice, because that's really what they're doing.
He's got his own case to worry about.
It is a total pre-K Thanksgiving pageant. That's how bad it is.
The debate over Al Franken's controversial departure from the Senate.